Welcome back, everyone, to our Career Breakthrough Summit. Today is a Coach Open Day. This is your chance to learn more about coaching, our profession, to ask your questions and learn more about the coaching profession in a whole in this lesson. This is our third session. So the first session we did what is coaching, looked at why you might want to start a career in coaching. We then just had a coach demo on Zoom with our wonderful coach, Chantel Hamilton, who allowed me to coach her in that space as a bit of a coaching demonstration for the audience. Now, a reminder, my name is Paul Smith. I'm the Manager Director here at Coaching Minds. I've got 9 years experience in coaching, 8 years holding my own practice, and 6 years running Coaching Minds. And in this session, I want to talk to you about our coaching profession. How do you start to understand the coaching profession? I understand that there's a lot of confusion around there. Do I go for EMCC? Do I go for ICF Accreditation? What's the difference? What organization should I choose? There's so many different coaching schools, so many different qualifications out there. What's the difference between certification and accreditation? We're left with so many questions. And the EMCC and the ICF might slap my wrist for saying this, but one thing that we're really poor at as a profession is explaining and helping the general public and aspiring coaches understand how we operate. And this session is for you if you are new to the profession, so you're thinking about starting a coaching career, starting to join coaching, or maybe you're a manager or leader who's looking to bring coaching into your organization or your company. Maybe you're curious about accreditation, so you're an existing coach, you've been practicing on the side for a while, and you want to get some real credentials and proper qualifications. This is also here for you. And if you're a coach that's confused with the terminology. And that leads me nicely on to the first image I want to share for today. If you're tuned in, please say hello, let me know you're here. But you might be thinking, why on earth has he got a spoon with some alphabet spaghetti or alphabet soup on it? And there's a reason. And the reason being is because many coaches, when they've got their credentials, got their accreditations, are confusing clients with their letters. As an industry, we have so many acronyms that we confuse coaches themselves. We've got EMCC, we've got ICF, we've got ACC, PCC, MCC, EIA, EQA, ESQA, ETQA. We've got all these different acronyms, but none of it makes sense to the general public, and none of it makes sense to new upcoming coaches. They're just as useful as alphabet spaghetti. I'm sure you all remember having alphabet spaghetti when you were a kid, having it as part of as one of your sides to your meals as a kid. We need to step away. We need to start to look and simplify and look at how we educate future coaches and aspiring coaches on the language and the terminology that we use in coaching. And the purpose of this session today is to simplify this and bring this down and give you an overview of how our organization's set up, what these different acronyms mean for you, and which ones are important for you right now. I can see we've got Donna tuned in. Donna, thank you so much for being here. It's wonderful to see you. Priya, excellent to see you here as well. Thank you so much for tuning in. I really appreciate your time. Now, the first thing we need to note is that the coaching industry is non-regulated. We don't have a regulated body. There's no government arm that is overseeing what we do, telling us what we should be doing, what we shouldn't be doing. Accreditation, certification, the correct qualifications is a choice. And before you just exit this talk, this presentation, and think, well, I don't need qualifications and credentials, then that's a reason for you to stay, because we should, as a coach, be choosing to go down the line of accreditation. And I'm going to explain to you in this session why accreditation is important. We're also going to look at how many coaches there are worldwide and how accreditation sets you apart. So the first thing we need to note is that the coaching profession is a non-regulated industry that causes a lot of problems. It causes a lot of scams, a lot of fake coaches that are out there on the internet. it creates a lot of ethical questions in our profession when we're non-regulated. What does it mean if we're non-regulated? It means that anyone can use the word coach. And as we'll see later on, lots of people are calling themselves coaches without actually holding any credentials in coaching. This means your friends can call yourself a coach. You can call yourself a coach if you want. Your mom's boyfriend, Steve, can call himself a coach. Whoever can use the word coach. It's not a protected word. Anyone can use it. There is no license to coach. So if you go coach, you cause emotional damage to an individual, you manipulate a vulnerable person, you don't coach properly, there's no real consequence. You can't lose a license because there's no license to gain as a coach. But hold on, don't rush. I'm going to cover all the ethical points in a second. There's a dark side of coaching. I'm sure we've all seen so many people on social media call themselves coaches. We get a lot of gurus. We get a lot of motivational speakers that are calling themselves coaches, telling you how you should live your lives, giving you tips on how to improve your life, telling you what you should do on a daily basis, telling you the habits that you need to install. All that is not coaching. It's a dark side of coaching. And this has led to a number of questionable cases, some of them that have gone through the courts in the UK, like what's known as the Lighthouse case. Take that away as an action from today to research the Lighthouse case. This was an organization set up as a life coaching organization, which was disguised, which were disguising themselves because they were a cult. They kind of manipulated people into selling their houses, spending tens of thousands of pounds into the organization. And this is because we're not regulated. And this is because the coaches that are not choosing credentials, not choosing accreditation, don't understand what coaching is professionally within organizations, within teams, in transforming individuals. They're the ones that are creating these bad stories. These are the ones that giving our profession a negative perspective and a bad name. So we need to really think about how we steer towards regulation as an industry. And the final thing is, with non-regulation, there's no real penalties for malpractice. There's the legal route, which is long, costly, expensive. We have to prove that they've done something against their legal obligations as well. So it's really difficult for us to get the support if we hire a coach that hasn't got qualifications, hasn't got accreditation, and they're doing the wrong thing. They're manipulating you. They're telling you what to do. Maybe they've advised you. So one case we've seen at Coaching Minds is a coach in their coaching session, they told the client to quit their job. The client was looking for possibilities, options, wanting to do a bit of analysis of whether or not to leave their job and set up their business or to stay in the work. The coach jumped in, says, look, quit your job. It's great. You can set up a business. You can do this. And they got that client to text the manager that they're quitting in that session. No real penalties. The only thing we lose if we've got accreditation or credentials, we lose those credentials as a coach if we are in a case of where we've done malpractice. So there's lots of ethical concerns and questions around our industry because we're non-regulated. But I ask you, if you're new to coaching, if you're watching this, please do not judge our profession on those bad social media gurus and those that are out there pretending they're a coach based on that. So don't judge us based on those. Learn the coaching industry, learn the professional side of the coaching industry. That's the EMCC, the ICF, everything we're going to be talking about today. We're going to look at that right now. And those that do have reputable credentials. And we're working here, not as part of Coaching Minds. I'm also a commercial director for another venture, which we've called Coach Dog. We're going to be talking about that later on, of how we're actually putting ethics into practice by creating a platform that is only for EMCC and ICF accredited coaches. This is our way of starting to really protect clients and coaches from that dark side of the profession. Now I'm going to see if we've got any comments coming through here. Priya is saying, it's really sad how people are being fooled by these so-called coaches. It is really sad. There's lots of cases out there. I've mentioned one. I could sit here and give so many cases and illustrations. And this is what really drives us here at Coaching Minds. I'm going to talk about the barriers to entry in a second. Why are people choosing not to go down the credential route? Why they're not looking? Because we as an industry need to look at this and we need to ask ourselves questions. And I'm going to give you the statistics in a moment. So I'm going to come back to your question there in a moment, Priya. So if you are for the EMCC and you are from the ICF, take this with a pinch of salt and help support and educate our industry, the general public, on our profession, because we've done surveys, we've been at events, in person, online, we've received the feedback. As an EQA with the EMCC, we receive the feedback from coaches and individuals, and we're taking that on board and we're implementing it to educate the general public on our profession. But not all is lost. We do have, I've mentioned the EMCC and ICF, we do have what's known as self-regulated organizations, or SROs. And there's many of them out there. The two key ones that are recognized, the biggest ones that are recognized globally, is the EMCC Global, which is the European Mentoring Coaching Council Global, and you've got the ICF, which is the International Coaching Federation. Just behind them, you've got the Association for Coaching, which is also globally recognized, but I don't have time to go into all the details of all the SROs today, so this focus is going to be on the EMCC and the ICF, which are the highest in demand. Now, the key difference, a lot of people ask me the key difference. There's lots of different differences between the two of them. EMCC is really heavy on supervision. ICF is more heavy on CPD and CCEU points. So there's different approaches that they take. They have different global codes of ethics and frameworks that are slightly different in their approach. So as an organization, they have different goals, different purposes, different objectives. Now, as a coach, or a coach that's thinking to go into the profession, you need to consider geographic location is probably the most important difference between the two of them, and what is more recognized for your clients and your potential business. So for example, the ICF is huge in the US. It's huge in the US and huge in Asia as well. The ICF is widely recognized across these two continents. The EMCC has just started to get presence in the USA through EMCC USA, but it's not hugely recognized. We hope it's going to change. We hope the EMCC can really expand in the US, because really what you want to aim for as a coach is to have dual accreditation if you can afford it. We're going to talk about affordability later on as well. So the ICF is heavily dominant in the North America, in the USA, and also in Asia. The EMCC, the clue is in the word, EMCC is heavily recognized in Europe, the European Mentoring and Coaching Council. That's the UK and all of Europe. It also has presence around the globe. Both of these organizations have presence around the globe. I'm just sharing where they're more heavily recognized. So that is the EMCC, that's the ICF. And they're there to set global standards. So I'm going to go back a second. I just want to finish an important point. They're there to set the standards of the profession, to talk about our legal obligations, to talk about what we need to do as a coach, what we should be doing, what we shouldn't be doing, setting that benchmark for what we should be aiming for to become a professional coach. These are the organizations that issue accreditation. I'm going to talk about the difference between certification and accreditation in just a moment's time. But these are the ones that are recognizing and making sure that the coaches that come through their programs have gone through detailed quality assurance. They have ethics at the heart of what they do, and they're serious about making a difference in the coaching profession. So keep an eye out for coaches that have got EMCC and ICF accreditation. I'm going to come back to the comments. I'm asking you a question. How many coaches do you think there are worldwide? Put it in the comments box. How many coaches do you think there are worldwide? I'm sure we all see them pop up on our social media, on Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook. Everybody's a coach of some description these days because it's a buzzword, it's a trend, but it doesn't mean they're a coach. How many do you think they are worldwide? Have a stab. Donna's saying, if a coach says they can fix you or your problem, run. Big red flag. So any red flag, if a coach says that they can fix you or they can solve your problem, they're not coaching. Donna's saying hundreds of thousands. Razan's saying 100K. I think a little bit bigger than that. Is there a bit of a clue there? How many coaches do we think are worldwide? Priya's saying a few thousand. Think bigger. So whilst we can't actually get the statistics of how many coaches are practicing worldwide, we can get an idea. And these figures might shock you. So if we were to look at Instagram and we were to look at the hashtag coach, there's been 49.6 million posts attached to coach. You look at coaching, it's about 39.7. This is as of yesterday when I prepped this presentation. 39.7 that is in coaching, hashtag coaching. So there's lots of posts on Instagram. On LinkedIn, it's said that there is 4.7 million profiles of people calling themselves coaches. So that is, they have coach in their profile, 4.7 million. Now let's highlight a problem that we need to address as a profession, is that between the EMCC and the ICF, now these figures might be a little bit more, I was getting different statistics in my research, there is between 70 and 123,000 accredited coaches between these two organizations. Now compare the two. From 4.7 million, we have just 0.1 of that are accredited through either the EMCC or the ICF. Do we see the problem? I'm going to ask you, what is the problem with this? The problem in a nutshell, there's 4.6 million coaches that are calling themselves coaches without credentials, without professionals, that haven't gone through the accreditation route. But why? What's stopping people from going through the accreditation route? Now, a lot of them might call themselves certified. I'm sure we all remember Tony the Tiger, our rainbow badges. If you're from the UK, this will resonate with you. Think back to when you were 2-year-old, 3-year-old, and you jumped in the swimming pool, and just for getting in the pool, they give you your rainbow badge. Tony the Tiger, nice little badge you can stitch somewhere, and a nice flashy certificate. Now, of those 4.6 million, probably a high percentage of them have what I like to call the rainbow badge of coaching. They've done a lesson, they've watched a video on YouTube, they've got a certificate, and now they call themselves a certified coach and trying to manipulate you to buy their services. Now, I'm putting this across is because there's so many coaches out there that are spending thousands of pounds, thousands of dollars going through trained programs, quality assured programs through the EMCC, through the ICF, that are getting drowned in this noise because there's too many people speaking up without the credentials that just has their rainbow badge, Frosty's rainbow badge from Tony the Tiger. These are small cases. Just because you watched a video or you watched a series on YouTube does not mean you can call yourself a coach. That's like me watching the full series of Suits and calling myself a lawyer just because Netflix give me a certificate. It doesn't work like that. A lot of certificates that are out there do not mean a Scooby, do not mean shite. I'm sorry to say the word, but they do not. So you need to learn, as somebody who's new to the profession, to do your due diligence, research your coaches so you don't fall into the scams and the fake coaches that are out there. It's so important. I'm going to talk about the coaches that you want to look for if you're thinking about hiring a coach, and the coaches that you want to become if you are thinking of a career in coaching. But just because they've got rainbow badges, just because they've got a Udemy certificate or they've done 2 hours in coaching, but I could give you a certificate off the back of this doesn't mean you're a qualified coach. And just because we're a non-regulated industry or profession does not mean we step away or we're immune to our legal obligations. Every coach has a legal obligation. And when I have a new coach, at Coaching Minds, we have new coaches enrolled that have been coaching for a year, 2 years. They come to us because we're the most affordable program in the profession right now. But they come to us and they didn't realize they had legal obligations. How they'd been performed was actually against the law. They don't think about data protection. They have their they don't think about data protection. They don't think about tax. They don't think about professional indemnity insurance. They don't think about how they set themselves up and their responsibilities as a business. Just because it's non-regulated does not mean we don't have legal obligations. It doesn't mean that we don't have an ethical responsibility, a duty of care to our clients, to think about the individual in front of us, to understand what the standards that we're setting and how we are representing the coaching profession as a whole. How we're there to transform the lives of individuals, not to manipulate them for more money and to hit 5-6 figures, whatever people are aiming for on social media these days with all the pap that is being posted. It doesn't mean that you shouldn't go for credibility and authority. Because with 4.7 million coaches out there, people will say it's a saturated market, but with only 0.1 million of that 4.7 as accredited coaches, it's an opportunity for you to stand out. And as Coaching Minds grows, as the EMCC grows, as the ICF grows, as people become more aware, alongside Coach Dog, which we're going to talk about later today, people are going to become aware of the difference. We need to do that education as a profession, the difference between those that are just getting those mini certificates to those that are actually going through an accredited program and getting their accreditation with the EMCC and the ICF. Those that are taking the whole career professionally and ethically. It's so important. And Donna is saying here, showing up does not equal trained. Being informed does not equate to knowledge and practice. Thank you for sharing that, because that really annoys me as well. One of the things that really bugs me, and I'm sounding like a bit of a pessimist, people say you're so negative about the profession. I'm not. If I was negative, I would sit here and moan and not propose solutions. I'm real. I take a realistic approach to this. But one thing, buzzword that's going around right now, is trauma-informed coaches who then market themselves to help cure trauma. You're not educated. You haven't gone through a degree. You're not a therapist. You can't help people cure their trauma. You can't help people remove their trauma. Trauma-informed means that you understand how trauma operates and you know how to stay within your competencies as a coach and when to refer to a therapist and where you might be able to help. So keep that in mind. We need to understand, we need to learn, we need to grow, we need to understand our legal obligations. We need to understand our ethical responsibility. There's too much noise on social media. And like I said, the great coaches, the professional coaches are getting drowned out. But we're here to change that at Coaching Minds. We're here to educate the general public on safety when choosing a coach. So you don't choose the crap. You are doing your due diligence and you're choosing somebody that is right for you, that isn't going to scam you, that isn't fake. But why? We need to ask the question why. Why from 4.7 million coaches that are calling themselves coaches on LinkedIn, plus whatever else is on Instagram and Facebook, why are people not choosing to go down the route of qualification and accreditation? Now, one of the reasons is you don't have to. So we did a survey when we first set up Coaching Minds. One of the reasons I haven't put on the screen is we don't have to. It's a non-regulated industry. We're not obliged to do that. Just because we don't directly say that we have to do that. I've just covered that. Indirectly, we've got legal obligations, ethical responsibility, duty of care, everything we need to consider. But the three big ones that came out was the cost. And this is something else we need to reflect on as a coaching profession. How can we expect a lot of individuals, a lot of coaches, how can we influence, inspire coaches to go into the route of accreditation and ICF, EMCC accreditation and credentials, which alone, when you go down the accreditation route, is fairly priced. They're not huge. They're a couple of $100s for the accreditation and the membership. But how can you expect people to come into the ICF and the EMCC when you have people, organizations, charging more for a coaching program than an actual degree? The average cost is between $5,000 and $12,000 to study a program to get into accreditation and credentials. Why aren't we thinking about this? Why aren't we thinking, right, why isn't the ICF and the EMCC setting some rules to look at some fair pricing guidance to take down that barrier of cost, allow more people who are passionate about our profession, who are professional and ready, but maybe don't have the $12,000 to invest in a program? Why aren't we driving this down? We do here at Coaching Minds, because we're here, we care about people, we care about bringing down these barriers. Our cost is £37 a month. We can make profit on that. And it gives us people opportunities to open doors, to get the right coaches that want to do the right thing into our profession, the future of coaches that are ready to make a difference in this AI-drawn world. The other barrier was flexibility. So whilst they had their funds for the program, everything was cohorts. Everything had to be done in a set time. You have to complete the program in 6 weeks. You have to be here, there, and there during your work hours. You need to get permission from your work to be there. Coaching Minds, we flipped the script on this, and it's something we need to think about as a profession in terms of schools and academies. Is how do we make that flexible? At Coaching Minds, you can join us anytime. You can start anytime. We have weekly sessions on a Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday that are on a cycle repeat. If you miss one, you have to wait 6 weeks to get onto the next one. No extra cost, no nothing, part of your subscription. Why can't other organizations and other academies do this as well? The other, which we're here to talk about today, the other third thing we found in the survey that was stopping people from going down the route of credentials and accreditation with either the EMCC or the ICF was clarity. Going back to what I mentioned at the beginning, the alphabet spaghetti. So many coaches, the EMCC, the ICF, we've got too many acronyms that don't make sense. It confuses new coaches. One of the biggest questions I get asked probably 3 times a day now when people are curious about joining Coaching Minds is, what's the difference between the EMCC and the ICF? What's the difference between certification and accreditation? What level of accreditation do I need to go? We're not clear on or making it simple for people to go down this route of accreditation. And granted, the ICF, the EMCC have improved massively over the past 3 years. The digital transformation at the European Mentoring Coaching Council is looking fantastic. Really excited to see where it goes in the future. But we need to ask these questions as an industry. Are we blocking some of the best people that could be coaches because of these high costs, because we cannot afford to offer flexibility, because we're too focused on AI and making everything automated? Is it because we're making things too complicated for people to understand? Is this why we have 0.1 million against 4.6 million coaches that are accredited in our profession? These questions need to be asked. At Coaching Minds, we're asking them. So what is the difference between certification and accreditation? Now, I've talked about Frosty the Tiger. I've talked about rainbow badges. When you jump in the pool, you get your certificate, makes you feel good, woo, 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 whatever. It doesn't mean you can go and practice. So basically, in a nutshell, certification is you've received a certificate from some company, organization, doesn't matter which company, organization. Like I said, I could give you a certificate off the back of this session, and you could say you're certified because you've got a certificate. So certification basically means you own a piece of paper that's given by a company or an organization. Doesn't matter what the background is or where they're from. Okay, doesn't make a difference. Accreditation, on the other hand, is where you've received recognition. So as accreditation, you get certification from an accredited body, accredited organization, and you get recognition from a professional body. So for example, you do an Udemy course, you do it in 20 minutes, it gives you a certificate. Coaches use that, call themselves a certified coach. It's not credible. Okay, that's just a certificate. So ignore the word certified when you're looking for a coach. The word you want to be looking at is a accredited coach. You want to find an accredited coach. What accredited means is that they've gone through a detailed, structured framework. And I'm going to talk about the different ones you've got here from the EMCC and the ICF in just a moment. But they've gone through an extensive program of around over 100 hours of coaching with practice. They've been assessed against practical standards, professional standards of the industry. Okay, they've been checked with their experience, they've been vetted, they've been verified, they've gone through a program, and then they've been given a notification, a recognition from one of the professional bodies in our profession. That's the EMCC and the ICF. Now be careful. Be careful. Don't just look for EMCC and ICF, because again, we make things complex in our profession. People will put EMCC member, or they will put ICF member. Just because they're a member, you can go and sign up and be a member of the ICF if you want to. Go and give them $200 a year, whatever it is at the minute. I don't know the cost of the MCC. It's about £100. Sorry for the ICF, but it's about £100 for the MCC. You can go and pay your membership. You can put that on your profile to try and con the general public to thinking you've got some kind of credentials. But just because you're a member doesn't mean you've gone through certification, gone through accreditation, and that you're qualified and you have the right credentials. So ignore where it says member. Okay, and we do have, I've seen academies that don't have accreditation that have done this. They will say, we adopt the Global Code of Ethics. We adopt the EMCC Global Code of Ethics. They'll put that on their website as a way to kind of con you into thinking that they're more credible than they actually are. Ignore this as well. The one thing you want to do, if you can take one piece of advice today when you're looking for a coach, is to check their registers, their accreditation registers. Now, the EMCC register is down at the moment. They're going through a whole transformation, and it's going to be, they're improving the whole platform and software. So you can't check that just yet, but it's going to be a matter of days before that goes live again. ICF is there. Go and check. If you find a coach that says they're ICF certified accredited, check the register. Don't take their word for it. There's too many scams and too many manipulations in our profession. And at Coaching Minds, we're educating people on this so they can go for that 0.1 million coaches and not fall for the 4.6 that don't have any credentials. So that's the difference between certification and accreditation. Check the registers. I've just mentioned that. Super, super important. Now, you're thinking, I'm an aspiring coach. I want to get into the coaching profession. I've talked about cost, the barriers. We're removing them here at Coaching Minds, so you don't have to worry about those. But you might be thinking, well, what's the right accreditation for me? I talked about this between EMCC and ICF, but which level do I go for? How do the levels work? So I'm going to start with the ICF because they're a little bit easier to understand. They make things simple. They've got a few other areas as well, but what's important to you as a new aspiring coach is this path. So the certified coaches path. Now, the ICF don't help us here neither because they also use the word certified. I don't know why it's not AAC, PAC, and MAC, because it stands for Associate Certified Coach. Associate Accredited Coach would be better. Professional Accredited Coach would be better. To get rid of that terminology that we're not so good at, to confuse people, because anybody can call themselves certified. So how do the ICF make themselves stand out a little bit better? That's not me for me to make the decision. But the three different routes you've got here is you've got the ACC. So each of these require you to sit an exam to be able, or the MCC requires a lot more detail. The MCC requires a lot more detail. It requires dialogue, a conversation, and a discussion with the ICF. But generally, level 1, you need 60 hours of coach education and 100 hours of coaching experience. For level 2, you need 125. Level 2, which is professional certified coach, you need 125 hours of coach education and 500 hours of experience. We're starting to see the level of depth that we go into when we go through our qualifications. It's not just a two-hour video that we've watched on YouTube by someone who probably doesn't have certification or accreditation themselves. And for Master Certified Coach, which is their level 3 path, you need 200 hours of coach education and 2,500 hours of coach experience. Now, there's a lot more behind this. There's an exam you have to sit. There's certain other requirements you need to meet. I don't have time to go through it in detail, but these are the 3 paths. So you start level 1 and then you work your way through level 2, level 3. But if you're a professional, if you're a manager in a business, if you've been working with individuals on a one-to-one basis, you're managing a team, you've got a lot of experience, and you've coached individuals, there's opportunities for you to jump straight to level 2 as well. So you don't have to automatically always go to the ACC, but it is recommended. Next, EMCC. Now, EMCC are a little bit more complicated. If you go on their website, they have quality awards, accredited numbers, accredited figures for absolutely everything. Teams, coaching, executive coaching, all different areas. But the 4 most important EMCC accreditations that you need to consider if you're a coach that's coming into our profession is the EIA. So I've accidentally put an EQA there. I put our practitioner certificate, so please ignore that. That should say EIA practitioner. Okay, the EQA is for organizations and companies. Ignore that. So don't want to confuse you here. So let's just ignore that. But every one of these are EIA, which stands for individual accreditation. I've said EIA too much there. I'm starting to think of Old MacDonald's farm. But anyway, getting off piste. EIA, so you have individual accreditation. This is for coaches that are coming to the profession. EQA is for organizations, as I mentioned. Foundation level, 1 year, you need 1 year's experience and 50 hours of coaching practice in order to get your foundation level with the EMCC. Level 2, the practitioner level, which should say EIA again there, so individual accreditation. You need 3 years and 100 hours of practice hours. So 3 years experience, 100 hours of practice. So you can see a slight difference here. The MCC are very focused on the years that you practiced, where the ICF are more focused on the coach education hours that you've received. For senior practitioner, which is the level that I'm at, you need 5 years experience in coaching and 200 hours of coaching experience. I'm actually currently looking to go through master practitioner. For master practitioner individual accreditation, you need 7 years experience and over 500 hours, with some huge contribution towards the coaching profession. And also you need to go through a series of interviews and dialogue with the EMCC to gain master practitioner. But those are the 4 levels that you can work your way through. So it's an identification. If you see people with foundation, practitioner, senior practitioner, master practitioner, you see these badges in particular used, they're generally going to be a safe coach to contract. But please also always check the register. And a few questions you need to think about when contracting a coach, when you're thinking about whether I go for the EMCC or the ICF. First question is, who's my audience? So who is your targeted clients? Who do you want to work with? What's the mission you want to change? How do you want to make a difference? The second is budget. So what is your budget? There's different budgets and different costs for EMCC, ICF. What experience do you hold already? So what experience can you use right now you can apply to the EMCC, ICF, and kind of work towards that next level in the accreditation? And what doors will it open? I mentioned earlier on the ICF is heavily recognized in the US and Southeast Asia. EMCC is really heavily and dominant in the Europe. So it's your choice. If your clients are based in Europe, it makes sense to start with EMCC. But always, you want the gold standard is to go for both EMCC and ICF qualifications if you have the budget. And that Coaching Minds, I just want to leave you finally with our mission that we are here to make coaching affordable and accessible across the globe. We are different from other programs, different from academies. We're not the most popular. I don't have the, I'm not the most popular in how I put things across because I question what we're doing and I care about the direction that we're going, but we're still going to be us. We're still going to make a difference. We're still going to help coaches. We're going to drive the future of the profession. So we're on a mission to make coaching affordable, accessible across the globe. That's why our prices are low and affordable, and that's why we're here to help and support. Adele is saying ethical and accredited coaches will upload their EMCC ICF certificate on their website, LinkedIn, etc. It will. You can see it on their LinkedIn, but also do check the register, because there is individuals that have come across a case, and it kills me to say this, where somebody's put a fake certificate on there. So just be careful. And Rezan, thank you so much. Rezan's saying we are making a difference. Thank you so much, Rezan. I really appreciate that. I appreciate your support, and I appreciate you being here. Now, I need to jump off because I'm 5 minutes late. I need to be in the next session of today, where we're going to talk more and build on this and look at AI within our profession and some ethical considerations as well. But again, I'm giving you a free resource. So if you are a coach that doesn't know your legal obligations, you don't know the importance of ethics, scan this QR code. I'm going to come and make this bigger so you can screenshot it. Screenshot this and scan it later on, go straight into it. But this is a full detailed book on everything with coaching ethics. So you get the free copy of the ebook. If you want the hardcover, you can go ahead and get it. But this is for you. And we're doing this as part of our mission to make coaching affordable, accessible, and part of the way to inspire coaches that are practicing, that haven't got credentials, to do the right thing. So scan this, learn all about ethics, your legal obligations, our professional code of conduct here that we operate through Coaching Minds, the EMCC Global Code of Ethics. It's all in there and what you need to think about. I want to thank everybody for tuning in today. I've jumped across the session and got off piece a little bit, but I hope this has been useful. I hope it's been beneficial. I look forward to seeing you in our next session, which I'm going to go live straight away now. So if you're on YouTube, LinkedIn, wherever you're seeing this, just go and find the next session. We're going to be talking about AI. I'll see you there.